welcome in this webinar for the B Corp month on impact business models. So welcome to everyone. We're going to do a deep dive on impact business models, a very specific feature of B Corp and the BIA, as you know. I'm Elisabeth Laville. I'm the founder of Utopies. Utopies was the first B Corp in France in 2014. And we have a long experience with B Corp since then, because we've been the country partner to launch B Corp in France for 5 years. And we are, of course, as involved as we can be in the community. We're currently doing our fourth recertification, or third recertification. And we're working, of course, also with our clients, since we're not in charge of B Corp in France anymore. We've supported around 50 B Corp past or current in their certification or recertification process. A quick intro on the webinar today. This webinar is part of the IBM series, how we call it, which is an exploration and publication research program on impact business models that we have launched last September 2022 with B-Lab France. And obviously we're organizing this, I'll tell you more about IBM series in a minute, but this webinar is organized in the context of the B Corp month, launched by B-Lab in March, on a key theme for us, which is let's go beyond. And today we're going to discuss how we can go beyond CSR with impact business models precisely. I want to introduce and thank all participants. Leah, who is the manager in charge of B Corp at Utopies, who will be moderating this session with me today. Mathilde from B-Lab France, Alejandro from Café Bueno, Alfred from Ostrocell. I'm introducing him, but he will be joining us in 20 to 30 minutes. And Yael Guillon from Infusio. Thanks to all of you for being here with us today. So, as I said, we're going to do a deep dive into one of B Corp specificities, which is impact business model, to try to understand how this specific feature of B Corp can help businesses to go beyond CSR and further in their commitment to redesign their business model to make impact more interdependent. Interdependence, as we know, is a key word for B Corps. To make impact more interdependent with or from profits. A quick word on the platform we're meeting on today, Riverside. You can, as almost on any platform, in fact, it's not a specific introduction, you can post your questions in the chat on the right throughout the webinar, questions or comments, and we will respond we will take them, especially during the Q&A session that we'll have in the second part, let's say, of the webinar. So I'm jumping to a quick introduction of why we have decided to work on impact business models and what is this IBM series program about. What is this program about? Maybe, Leah, you can move to the next slide, because I don't have control on anything that you guys can see. So not even this one, but even the next one. The first idea of why we've launched this program is we're seeing with our clients and with our own practices, as almost all of you probably, the limits of what we at Utopies call CSR 1.0, which is which is about reducing negative impact as much as the company can. But what we're seeing is that even if we do that, if we have become very good at reducing or mitigating the negative impact of operations and activities, it's not enough to solve the key challenges we're facing today, and especially climate. We've seen that during COVID, as we all know, in 2020, because we've stopped all human activities for more than 3 months throughout the planet, all across the planet, we've succeeded in reducing our global emissions by 7 to 8%, which is what we must do every year to reach the Paris Agreement every year till 2050. And as you all know, we did that only in 2020 because of this huge COVID crisis that we were going through. And since then, our global emissions are up again. So this indicates, it's a signal, key learning from COVID, is the level of disruption that we must bring to our business models, to our human activities, should we want to reach, and we want to reach, the Paris Agreement goals. So CSR, as usual, I would say, is not enough to solve the challenges, and especially it's not enough. It's maybe enough to reach operational excellence, but it's not enough if we want to integrate planetary boundaries into the very DNA of our businesses. And we see increasingly a lot of books. You have some here by Tim Jackson, a lot by economics, a lot of UK economics here. Tim Jackson, Kate Raworth, etc., Éloi Laurent in France, about the limits to growth, because those planetary boundaries, if we take them in our businesses, it means we need to set limits also. We need to decide what we want to grow and where we want to grow. We obviously want to grow well-being, employment, etc., and what we want to degrow, and that's really what IBMs are about. So we wanted to explore this, and if we switch and this requires more than technical adjustments. It's really a cultural change, which is what this slide is about. What we need is we need to transform our businesses, our business models, and the global economy to benefit everyone. But this is not only about technical adjustment or technological innovation. Obviously, we need technological innovation, but this is we believe strongly that this is mostly a cultural shift than a technological shift. And this is what we want to address also with business models, with impact business models, and what I think the BIA captures very well with this part of the questionnaire. So here you see a few examples of why we need a cultural shift, but I think all of you guys are really convinced about this. So on the left, you see an ad that is not so old, by Cdiscount in France, saying, "Oh, my computer still works, but you never know what can happen. An accident happens quickly, so an accident that will enable me to, of course, buy a new computer, even though I don't need it." And then you see also on the bottom left an ad that was 5 or 6 years ago by Carrefour that was trying to sell a hairdryer that was very discounted, so interesting, even for a bald man who obviously does not need a hairdryer. So this is key to the cultural shift we need to effect, obviously, and we need to take those ads and this cultural paradigm to what is on the right, like the Patagonia ad in 2011 that all of you know, "Don't buy this jacket," what Veja is saying, that about the fact that the most ecological sneakers are the one we already wear, and so we'd better repair them, keep them, take care of them, than absolutely wanting to buy new ones that in fact we don't need and that add a lot of consumption of natural resources, a lot of waste, etc., as we all know. So this is really about cultural change, and we see also people like Cyril Dion, Marion Cotillard in France, who launched at the previous Cannes festival, company called Utopia, saying if we want to change the world, we first need to change the narratives of tomorrow. And that's really also key to what I think BCOP and the BIA are trying to do. If we move to the next question, what we've explored with IBM series, and I'll tell you more about it in a minute, is this idea that very often when companies or business leaders think about business model and impact business model, they think that you need something very disruptive, and everybody's trying to find the big disruptive idea that's going to radically change their business. And in fact, what we're seeing in the research we've done in the last month is that it's almost an error, and I'm quoting Dave Snowden here, who's a consultant and who, by the way, worked at IBM, the company, not on IBM series with us. He's saying that the single most fundamental error of the last 3 decades is to try and to design an idealized future state rather than working from where we are today. So working the evolutionary potential of the here and now, what he calls the adjacent possibles, and I'll come back to that. So instead of, in a way, this program that we are conducting tells us to break free from the myth of this big disruptive idea that entrepreneurs have or don't have, very binary approach, to say, okay, let's work from where we are today and see how we can shift our business models, slowly from where we are today. If we move to the next slide, the objective for us is to move from CSR to better understand what an impact business model is, better understand how to build it, how to shift from a conventional business model to an impact business model, and what are the key levers to do that. This is where we think that the B Corp questionnaire, the BIA, and of course the B Corp community, because it's a huge database of best practice, has a great contribution to bring. In fact, when you deep dive into the BIA, you discover that you have more than 50% of the total questions that are related. Well, let's say half of the questionnaire is related to operational impact, and half of the questionnaire has to do with impact business models. It's huge. There are no other questionnaire label, etc. that gives this part of the work that devotes this part of the work to impact business model. Plus, as you all know, the BIA has been used by more than 250,000 companies worldwide to date, and it has embedded in the BIA more than 20 what we call generic impact business models that are available for all companies of all industries. So this is very important because it makes impact business model opposable, because in the BIA you have criteria. You get the points or you don't get them. You get a bit of points or a lot of points. As you know, all those 20 plus 23 generic impact business models in the BIA with those IBMs on each of them, you can get a maximum, let's say, in average of 30 points. One of them is on 60 points. So, and we have this huge database of certified companies. If we move to the next slide, where we know for each company, as you know, all our scores as B Corps are publicly available. So global scores by section of the impact areas of the IBM, so governance, environment, workers, community, and customers, but also the points that we get on IBMs are public. And this is very key to identify where the best practices are. For example, this is the #1 B Corp in the world, South Mountain Company. They have 184.1 points globally, but including more than 100 points on IBMs. So if I'm looking for a company that has a great score on whatever local economic development, let's say, they have 24.2 on 30. Okay, so we know that this company is good on this IBM, and we can explore its case study and try to understand why it's so good and what all of us can learn from that company. So both the questionnaire, the criteria, the points, and the database of B Corps are really super useful to go beyond, I would say, impact washing, which is talking about impact, but not exactly being very precise about what it is, how we can measure it, how we can improve it, obviously, which is the key question for companies today. So IBM series, if we move to the next slide, is exactly this. This is what we want to explore based on the B Corp tools, so the questionnaire and the community, to try to improve together, share knowledge, create better understanding of what an impact business model is, and share that with all the B Corp community and beyond to enable almost any company in the world to leverage those tools and this knowledge to improve their business model and to shift to impact business models. So this is a program that we are conducting with B-Lab France, as I said, with the support of 4 companies to date: Chloé, Bonduel, Expansions, and Piper Heidsieck, that I'm thanking in the process, because their support is really very useful for us to be able to devote time to that research. The objectives of the program are to better understand the key determinants of impact and value creation based on the BIA, to make the IBM assessment in the B Corp questionnaire more concrete, transparent, and accessible to all B Corps, because many of us, when we go into the BIA, if we answer no to a question, we don't even see the questions that are related to the IBM behind. So better understand how you can improve your performance based on the IBM part of the BIA. To identify, as I said, based on the B Corp community, and share inspiring examples of companies that have succeeded in putting impact, whether social or environmental, at the heart of their business model, and to help companies, big or small, B Corp or not, to structure or strengthen an approach that is aimed at reconciling profit and impact, as I said. So we have, I think, a slide with our latest publications. So to date, you have 3 key publications, and I'm sorry, only the first one on the adjacent revolution is available in English to date, but I hope it will change rapidly. So Impact Business Model, the Adjacent Revolution, is in English. Best for Climate is 27 inspiring examples of B Corp that are best for climate companies. That was published for COP27. Best for biodiversity, 15 examples published for COP15. And on top of that, we've just released 3 videos of an interview that we did, and that actually I did at Change Now, along with B-Lab, when Dan Osuski, who was the former head of standards and insight at B-Lab, so the founder of the IBM, it's an interview we did at Change Now last year, and Dan left B-Lab a few weeks ago. But those interviews are very key. Those videos are very key to better understand what's behind the IBMs. I think the team will put in the chat the link to the landing page that we've created to gather all this in a single page, where you can find all the publications, the videos, etc. And I'm going to leave the floor to Mathilde, who's going to do a zoom on the IBMs in the BIA, where they are, how they work, etc.
Thanks, Elisabeth. So yeah, my challenge here is to guide you all through the impact assessment for you to understand better what are those IBMs that we are talking about, and also how they are materialized in the tool, which is what is also interesting here. First, I don't know how familiar you all are with the BIA, so a quick introduction to the tool. The impact assessment is the impact measurement tool B-Lab uses to assess the performance of the companies. It's an online and free tool meant for every company to use. So if they want to measure themselves to the B Corp standards, it measures the company's performance in a comprehensive and positive way, and we hope inspiring way. It's for the companies to say. There are 2 main parts in the BIA. If you go to the next slide. First, the disclosure questionnaire, which is the part you see on the right. That is used for what we call the risk review. So it's basically the questions of the BIA that are used to verify that the certification of a certain company won't have risks attached in terms of industries or controversial issues. But the part that is interesting for us today is the part about positive impacts. And the BIA will measure the company's performance based on 5 what we call impact areas. But it's basically the different stakeholders of the company. So So you have governance, workers, community, environment, and customers. And within those 5 impact areas, you have numerous questions, a lot of questions. If you're familiar with the BIA, you know that. But you have specifically 2 types of questions. You have operations questions and what we call, and what is our interest here, impact business models. So what's the difference specifically between those 2 types of questions, between operations questions and IBMs? The operational questions, they are meant to cover the day-to-day practices of the company. So this is basically what we call CSR here. Whereas the impact business models, they are made to capture the company's what we call impact by design. So how the company is designed to have a specific impact, right? So the questions that are asked in both cases are different. For the operations questions, it's like, running a business has an impact. So do you try to make it positive? Whereas for the impact business model, it is there something specific about your company design that goes above and beyond CSR, which is our topic today. So it's about doing impactful things and not only doing things in an impactfully. And the tool is made in a way, and I'll explain this a little bit later, that operations questions, they apply to all companies. So these are mandatory questions. They are always visible in the BIA. The difference with the IBM questions is that it applies to certain types of companies only if they self-selected in the BIA. So it's about unlocking it. And once again, I will talk a little bit further about this later. So let's dive deeper into the IBMs. On the next slide, you have the 5 main characteristics of the IBMs. The first one is that an IBM, an impact business model, for a company to have it has to be specific. What we mean with specific is that it has to be focused on benefiting a particular group of individuals with a particular positive impact or positive benefit or outcome. So it has to be specific. It also has to be material, meaning that you have to focus on providing a significant positive impact to a specific stakeholder. It cannot be a minor part of the business. It has to be something that is really in your core business, that is material to your business. Then it has to be verifiable. So it has to be clearly documented, and it has to be verified through the company's documentation, and you have to be able to prove what you're doing and to measure the impact of what you're doing. So this is also the overall philosophy of B Corp, but the IBMs as well have to be verifiable. Then they have to be lasting, which means that it has to be built into the design of the company's business model. We've already talked about it, but it cannot be a short-term action. It has to be something that cannot be easily altered in the near future. So it has to be lasting in your business model. And then the last one, it has to be extraordinary, because IBMs are usually unusual and unique, and it won't be a thing that you would find in most traditional businesses. So it also has to be extraordinary. In other words, it has to be innovative in most of the time. So when you see this, you understand that IBMs are indeed a little bit rare and difficult to unlock, and therefore most of the certified B Corps, they unlock between no IBM and 2 IBMs. And it's rare to see more IBMs. These are the best in class that might have more than 2 IBMs. And I talk about unlocking, and this will be a little bit clearer with the next slide, I guess, because within the tool, each impact area, so the 5 impact areas I talked about before, each impact area has an introduction section with features, which features gating questions. that unlock specific IBMs. So in the tool, you will have an introduction section, you have gating question. If you answer appropriately to these introduction questions, then you will have an IBM section that will appear after the operations question. So this is very practical, but I wanted you to understand how it works like in practice in the BIA, because you might want to try to play with it. Now that we've said that, and we have understood the overall concepts, let's see a little bit more what are those IBMs, like who they are. You have 4 different types of IBM. You have 3 types of what we call generic IBMs. You have, first of all, the IBMs that are based on the products and the services that are sold by the company. So if your product or service is made in a way that it has a specific impact embedded in the model, then you would be able to unlock an IBM based on products or services. Then the second type of IBMs are internal IBMs. Internal IBMs are based on the internal structure of the company. So should it be in the way you hire your workers or the way you organize your operations, your internal structure can be in itself an impact business model. Then you would have the IBMs based on the organization of the company's value chain. These IBMs, they are only in you see the little purple sticker. They are only in the community parts, and I will show them on the next slide. And then the last type of IBMs, which is a little bit different from the 3 others I just introduced, these are addenda. Addenda, they are specific IBMs that were developed for specific industries. For now, we have 3 addenda for finance, real estate, and higher education. And the reason why these IBMs, like these specific IBMs exist, is because we thought that for this specific industries, we have to go further into the way we assess the impact of these industries, because they have high risks or very specific regulations that we needed to take into account. So my last slide would be presenting you the whole picture of the IBMs. You have 23 IBMs plus the specific addenda I just talked about, with this different types of IBM that you see with the colors here. So in each impact area, you would have a number of IBMs. You see, it depends on the impact area. In the governance part, you only have the mission log, but you have a lot of others. I won't be telling all the names of the IBMs, but maybe a quick example. For example, if you take a company like Utopies, Utopies has at its core business is to help other companies improve their own impact, and we consider this as an IBM. It's a service IBM, obviously, because the service they give is an impactful service, and this IBM would be the 6th IBM of the last part, the customer part, called impact improvement. You guys have other IBMs, but it was just the example, and we will have a lot of other examples in the next slides and with our panel. So I'll just give you to this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mathilde. This is very clear and very exciting to understand also that you have secret sections in the BIA that you can, like secret drawers that you can open with a lot of additional questions on IBMs, obviously. I'm going to tell you a bit more about the study that we are conducting on this, what we have done to date, and what we have found also to date, before we move to the panel discussion, which is really the key part of this webinar this morning. So the key question for us is really how to design or how to redesign a business model towards impact by integrating impact in the core of the business model. And as I said, and as Mathilde just explained, we think that B Corp IBM offer a very unique, accessible, and transparent way to work on this beyond talking about impact, but really to work on how to redesign or design the business model. So we started with a study we conducted in 2022. I'm going to tell you a bit more about this, but I wanted to quote Dan Oszewski, who's as I said, the former head of standard at B-Lab and B-Lab Global, and therefore the founder of the IBMs. Just to quote Dan, and that's something he says in the interview I've just mentioned, that is in the 3 video I also mentioned that you can find on the landing page. Dan says, more than anything, a business model must display longevity, even more so when it comes to impact business model. The fact that companies cannot change their business model overnight, obviously. If a company's business model is sustainable, it's often because it has been designed from the start. And this is very key. It says that Dan says it's not impossible to evolve and redesign a company's business model over time. But one thing a business model cannot be is short-term and ephemeral, because it's important, and that's a key thought to keep in mind when trying to work on this. Obviously, a business model is something very powerful. As Mathilde said, in the B-Lab criteria, it should be extraordinary and lasting. So it's obviously meant to last, which means also that it can be sustainable from a financial standpoint, because obviously in impact business model, there's impact, but there's also business. So it needs to be lasting from the impact side of the analysis, but also from a financial or economical standpoint. And that's something that we've explored. If we move to the next slide. Léa, je sais pas si tu... Yes, very good. So, which is why we have tried to create a Canva of analysis that you are obviously free to use. If you want to analyze your impact business model, how you're going to be as B Corp says, for purpose and for profit. So how your business model can both generate impact and generate obviously profits. So on the left, you see the analysis of the impact side of the impact business model, which is how the business model is designed to generate what B-Lab calls specific positive impact on social or environmental aspects. And this is essentially the questions of the BIA put in boxes, okay? So about especially the intensity of the impact, how you measure it, the amplitude of the impact, which is not the intensity, but the amplitude is in for example, the percentage of turnover that is related to this business model that you're claiming. Obviously, the innovative quality of the IBM, the way it's measured, etc. So this is focused on impact. And on the right, you have the analysis of the financial sustainability of the business model, because it also needs to be to create value from an economical or financial standpoint for the company. And this is what we're trying to analyze. And currently, what we're doing when we analyze the best practices within the B Corp community is we are trying for each company to find what we call the source code, which is in a way the connector, the key secret connector that actually makes the impact business model both relevant on purpose, left part of the Canva, and for profit on the right part of the Canva. So if we move to what we have done, the first publication on the adjacent possible, the one that is available in English, we started with in September. Actually, the study was conducted in summer 2022. A study on, let's say, 200 and a bit more than 280 20 what we call best for impact. You know that B Corp has those awards or every year, best for workers, best for community. We said, okay, we're going to try to create a list of best for impact. So companies among B Corps who have one or more IBM with a very high score, meaning, let's say, more than 15 points, I think we took for that first study, on a maximum of 30 points for the majority of IBM, which means that the company has a much higher score than the average B Corp, and also probably a higher impact than the average impact intensity demonstrated by B Corps. And of course, we also need to look at the economical viability, as I said, of the business model. So we decided to focus on companies who had been in existence for at least 3 years, with at least one employee and a minimum of 500,000 euros or dollars in revenues. So we had a sample of 228 companies with an overall average B Corp score of 105, average IBM score of 26.4, which is rather high. If you compare that to probably your own score for those who are B Corps, 26.4 is kind of a hard score to get, and this is a selection on this more than 6,000 B Corp companies. So this is really the best of the pack on impact. And if we tried to study all those companies to better understand what they have done to design or redesign or shift their business model towards impact. And in fact, this is where the adjacent possibilities concept appears, because this concept, just for you to know, was designed by a biologist called Stuart Kaufman, who says that, in fact, in life, in biology, biological systems evolve only, never go to disruptive jumps. They just evolve in very small incremental steps that are always within reach, and never ever by disruptive or extreme giant leaps. And in fact, this is what we found also for companies. The genius of companies who have succeeded in designing, redesigning, deploying impact business models lies, in fact, in their ability to exploit what we call nearby opportunities that are very often close to existing know-how, or that where they only need to mobilize resources that are available already where they are today. I'm going to give you a few examples of this, but this is very key, because I think, to me, and as I said earlier, it is really helpful for entrepreneurs, because it, in a way, helps you break free from this pressure to find very disruptive ideas, to take very disruptive leaps, extreme transformation of business, radical transformation. It's really opposed to this, and I think it's very it opens possibilities. In fact, adjacent possibilities is also a way to open a lot of possibilities, because those source codes I was talking, the connector that helps connect impact and business performance. In fact, they're always at hand where we are today. We just need to see them, obviously, and to try them. And that's really interesting, as we used this quote by Leonardo da Vinci in the report, saying that simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. So sometimes we are looking for something very sophisticated, very complex, and in fact it's very simple. It's already there. We just need to see it and to go for it. I'm just going to take a few examples here. We have listed some of the source code that we've identified that helped connect the IBMs and the impact and the business value. One example, and each time I'm going to take one B Corp to exemplify the idea. But in fact, we found many in the 228 examples that we've studied. So one example of this is to verticalize the supply chain, whether agricultural or industrial. And here I'm going to take the example of agricultural. So this is a company, B Corp, that is in the US, in California, more specifically, Be Right Market. They've been certified since 2015. They have an overall score, pretty much the average of what we have studied, 104 almost. Here you have the revenues, $46.5 million. So it's quite a big company because they have done this verticalization and they have grown based on this. And their main IBM is the one we will focus on the second webinar of this series during the B Corp months, is local economic development with a score of 21.3. So it's quite huge on 30. Essentially what they were doing, they had a food market, grocery shops in the beginning, neighborhood grocery shops. They had 2 of them. And then they started to say, okay, we need to source more local products and to source more locally, also to ensure the resilience of our supply chain, no shortage, better quality, more controlled price, etc. So they started by creating a farm where, in fact, they get a lot of their products from now. And then they said, okay, but we also need to, if we want to have more impact locally, we can also create other businesses that will help to better serve the local community. So they also created a restaurant. They also created a cooking school, by the way, which I think is non-profit. The rest are for-profit businesses. They created an ice cream truck. They created a cafe. They created a creamery with the idea that initially they were sourcing a lot of their milk products, far from San Francisco where they're based. So they said, okay, we need to make this part of our business more local, to increase our impact on the local economy and also on local farms, etc. So at the end of the day, they worked at maximizing local supplies. Therefore, the key way to do that into verticalize the supply chain. So integrate some of the upstream suppliers and develop what we can call a local food hub with a lot of businesses that are here to source more locally and to better serve the local community. So that's one example. Second example of source code that helps maximizing the value both on impact and for business is to set up a factory or to co-manufacture, co-produce in a neighboring facility. So here, an example in Europe, which is Opaline in Switzerland. They too have been a B Corp since 2015 with an overall score of 93.2, 2.3 million in revenues. And again, their main IBM is local economic development with even a higher score than Be Right, with 26.6. So what Opaline is doing essentially, as it said is in their logo, they produce fruit juices and lemonades. Okay, pretty much 1 million bottles per year. What they have done is to rework their business model so as to have, let's say, 3/4 of the supply that are locally sourced. Okay, so fruits, especially fruits that are a bit not perfect, so cannot be sold in local supermarkets. So they get that those materials, those products from supermarkets, and also they said, oh, we need to supply to serve the local community. So 75 of their clients, whether B2C or B2B, because they also sell in stores and in restaurants, etc., are in the local community. And what they have done is since 2013, they have transferred their production to the Pressoir du Rhône, which is a different company that had an industrial tool that was not 100% running always. So they said, okay, let's, this factory of Pressoir du Rhône belongs to an organic agricultural cooperative called Biofruit, local too. And so they had discussions with this local partner, and now they're benefiting from a larger production capacity because they're in fact mutualizing the production tool as well as fixed costs with biofruits. So they're using production capacity from another local company. So more relations, win-win relations with local players, and that's obviously how they unlock this IBM on local economic development. Maybe a third one. I think I have 4 of them. Another very key lever to both create impact, societal or environmental value and business value, is to make better use of byproducts or co-products. And we'll have a great example I'm just seeing that Alfred has joined us. We'll have a great example in the panel discussion with Ostrocell. So here, Marealis is in Norway. They've been certified since 2017 with an overall score of 82.3. And their main IBM is precisely on products or services that reduce resource use and or limit waste. And they have more than 15 points on this. So very simply, Marealis is a spin-off from one of the world's leading producer of Nordic shrimp, which is based in Norway, which is Stella Polaris. And what they have done is they've discovered that, in fact, the shell of the shrimp, which is pretty much 40% of the initial resource that they're using, is historically wasted. Okay, because this is not contributing to value creation since the shell is thrown away, was previously thrown away. So what they did is they did a lot of research on this shell to see how we can give a higher value to this, which accounts for pretty much 50% of what we using our raw materials. And they've created this spin-off, Marealis, which is specializing in natural health products from marine peptides, which can be found in the shrimp shell. So they're producing shrimp power to produce cosmetics or health products, especially to lower blood pressure, etc. So very interesting way to use something that previously was a waste and that now, in fact, brings more value per gram than the shrimp, probably, because health products have a higher value on the market than the raw materials per se. Fourth example, and I think that's the last one, which is Miyoko Creamery, very interesting example, also from the US. So a company that's B Corp certified since 2019 with a score of 81. Revenues of $25 million and a good score of more than 15 points on the IBM, which is related to products and services that reduce or remediate toxins or pollution. And what they do is, in fact, they produce cheese and butter that are plant-based. So mostly cashew nuts, oat, chickpea flour, etc. So without cow milk. And initially, their business question was how to secure the value chain, because everything they were using as raw materials, the plant-based milk, was imported. And so they say that's a very high risk, especially, and that was prior to COVID, but that's a very high risk when you have tensions in global supply chains. So they said they needed to relocalize their supply chain. So they created a dairy farm transition program that in fact helps dairy farmers to explore vegetarian alternatives. So at least on part of their farm to start growing some crops that will be used for plant-based production, but that's also converting in a way farms to plant-based milk. And this is obviously a way to better control their supply chain, to better control the quality, including environmental quality, social practices, etc. And it's a very successful approach, obviously, and it's also in terms of storytelling for the brand. It's also very nice to be able to present the farmers, to explain that not only they're trying to organize the transition to plant-based from a consumer standpoint with their product, but also to do this from a farmer standpoint, helping farmers enter this transition too. So that's a fourth example, and I think I'll stop here for the examples, and we're going to move obviously to the panel discussion to see other examples, and obviously the stories will then be told by the entrepreneurs themselves, which is obviously more powerful in terms of how some B Corps have designed or redesigned their business to increase their positive impact on society and the planet. And I'm leaving the floor to Leah, who's going to moderate this discussion.
Thank you very much, Elisabeth. And for some reason, the roundtable slides isn't showing up, so I'll sort it out right now.
It's coming.
We're very, very lucky to... It's not coming. I'm not sure it is. We're very lucky to host and to have today with us 3 inspiring B Corps, all 3 with very high IBM scores. So we have Alejandro, who's the co-founder of Café Bueno from Denmark. Alfred, the Chief Sustainability Officer of Ostracell in Austria, in a beautiful place in Austria, who Elisabeth was mentioning earlier in comparison to Marie Addis. And Yael, the co-founder of Infusio in France and a B Corp, which we're very, very jealous of because you guys have more impact improvement points than us. So we're very, very happy to have you here today. Maybe we've prepared a few questions for you, but if you have any more questions, do not hesitate to ask them via the text box on the side of Riverside. So maybe starting with you, Alejandro, looking at your score, you have 98 points in total on your BIA, with 16 points associated to the IBM resource conservation. Could you briefly present your business and how your business model is designed to generate a positive outcome for your stakeholders? And maybe also mention whether you consider yourself as an impact native company, or did you shift maybe a bit later in your history?
Sure. So Café Bueno is a bioscience company, and we upcycle coffee byproducts into ingredients for personal care, nutraceuticals, food and beverage, pet food, different industries. So we take coffee grounds and break them down into their composing molecules, and then use these molecules as ingredients. Let's say the impact angles are on different ends. On one hand, when you make a cup of coffee, coffee is composed by much more than caffeine. People just think of coffee and they think of caffeine. Caffeine is less than 1% of coffee. The rest are antioxidants, essential fatty acids, proteins, sugars, a lot of health promoting compounds. But when you make a cup of coffee, less than 1% of all of the good stuff ends up in your cup of coffee. The rest remain intact in the spent coffee grounds, which are thrown away, most of the time ending up in landfills, where they decompose and generate tons of methane. Actually 340 cubic meters of methane per ton of coffee, and there's about 11.2 billion kilos of coffee traded worldwide yearly. So the emissions are not a small portion, and actually the whole value chain of coffee represents about 1% of the emissions worldwide. And then on the other hand, we thought, okay, there's all of these health promoting compounds that are not being taken advantage of, and then we looked at what could we do with them, and we started looking into cosmetics, food, all of these industries that basically cater to society's well-being. And we realized that all of the products, or most of the products that we consume every day, are full of shit. They have ingredients that are made of petrochemicals or synthetics, that in order to make them, you have to reach temperatures that go above 1,000 degrees Celsius. So there's actually a lot of emissions in the production of those. So by extracting the compounds from coffee, we can replace those petrochemicals and synthetics with natural ingredients, making people consume healthier things and at a much better environmental impact. And I would say yes, it is a native. Like we created Café Bueno because we realized that there were a lot of problems and we intended to solve them. So it was created with that intention in mind, with the impact, but then of course making money out of it.
Thank you very much, Alejandro. Alfred, how about you for Ostrosal? You have 82 almost points in total and 33 points associated to IBM. So you have 3, excluding governance. Environmentally innovative manufacturing process, which is your main one, where you have an impressive 21.5 out of 30. You also have land and wildlife conservation and renewable energy, I think. How is your business model? Could you present, first of all, Ostrosal, and explain how your business model is designed to generate this positive outcome?
First of all, hello to everybody, and thank you very much for the opportunity to join here and to explain our business model, which I would say almost happened like an accident, but we come to this later. So what's our business model? We are a producer of specialty pulp. Pulp is produced from wood. And it was interesting to listen to Alejandro because there are quite a number of similarities. I mean, we are a big industrial company. We are moving around hundreds and thousands of tons of wood and produce, at the end of the day, about 150,000 tons of pulp, which is not used for paper production, but which is used today still mainly for textiles. But there's already a substantial part of our business which is going into, again, also pharmaceuticals and food products and technical applications. So we are producing pulp from wood, and our business model is, I would say, very special in respect that we are not taking, let's say, trees, but we are starting out with a side stream of the sawmill industry. So there's a lot of wood around here, our area, and there are lots of sawmills that produce timber products. And a part of the tree they cannot use because they cannot make timber out of it. That part we are taking. In the past it has been deposited somewhere or it has been burned. We are taking it, and same as Alejandro explained, wood is not just one component, it's also a chemical, let's say a natural chemical product. And in our process we are separating the wood. We're taking the fibers, which is then called pulp. And there are 2 other components in the wood. One is the lignin, which you can say is the glue. And the other one is the hemicellulose, so like sugar. Today we are taking all these products and convert them into products like pulp, but also into bio-based energy products. So part of the side stream, so to say, is converted to biogas and is used to produce green electricity in one of the largest biogas generators here in Austria. And other parts of the side streams are used to produce bioethanol. There are lots of producers of bioethanol, but most of them produce bioethanol from plants that are in competition with agricultural land and so are in competition with food production. Our bioethanol is produced from a side product from forests where you cannot grow anything else except forests. And as a last part, there is a lot of heat, let's say, produced as part of our process, more heat and more power than what we need for our own production. And so we are supplying electricity as well as heat into the local grid, into local networks. So we are supplying heat to about 20,000 households here in the area of Salzburg and an equivalent amount of electric power to the households here in the area. So that is, let's say, in short, the existing business model, which, let's say, answering your second question, how did we come there? I think we might be an example of not a native impact company. We were, let's say, our eyes were opened by NGOs in the 80s when Greenpeace visited us and told us, hey, the way we are producing in a very linear fashion, which was then the common standard, just does not work. It does not work for the environment and also for the surrounding area. We are close to a city here. And at that time, so in the early 80s, there was let's say a major external earthquake, if you want to call it, that forced the management then to start and redesign the entire business model of the company. And I think once you start to see the impact and once you start to see that there are different ways to do things and you develop the know-how step by step, then you can continue. And over the past, let's say, 30 years, then a lot has changed from this first initial shift. And today, the way we produce pulp and we utilize all the remaining other components of wood is, I would say, worldwide pretty unique.
Thank you very much, Alfred. That's fascinating. And in fact, it's an example that we've integrated into the latest publication. So you will find an aspect of it, an aspect of what you're doing in this, in the case study, in the adjacent possible notes. The next question is mainly for you, Alejandro and Yael. I know that you're Alejandro, I think you have recertified recently in 2022, and Yael, I know that you're in the middle of your audit. How did, did B Corp and the BIA help you maximizing your impacts? If so, how? And maybe how did you approach more specifically the IBM's impact business model topics during your recertification process? Alejandro, do you like to start?
Well, we started Café in 2016, and since then, in 2015, 2016, we were living in London. Then we moved to Denmark to start Café Bueno here. And then B Corp was only beginning to exist here. And then we approached them. So even in our first business plan, we already had B Corp in there. And then filling the first BIA, which allowed us to certify in 2019, I think. We already, by filling it, we realized, okay, we need to take this into consideration and have these type of documents and things like that, which in the course of 2019 to 2022, we started being very diligent with those things. So it helped us make everything better from the ground up, and also administratively it's just helpful. And the second part of the question, what was it? The IBMs. To be honest, IBMs is kind of a new thing, right? In the recertification, we realized it, and I mean, we have not heard about it before, so we thought, okay, cool, let's fill it up. But if I would have known a little bit more about it, because I was the one filling it with one of my colleagues, I would have put more effort into filling it properly, because now I have seen some areas in which we could have gotten some points that we just neglected. But yeah, I mean, filling it always makes you realize things that you maybe not be aware of, but it's also sometimes unfair because they don't give you points because of things that are out of your control, like your founding team, there's no women. Like, come on. But yeah. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and to your point, Alejandro, this is why we're doing this webinar and this research program. Even B Corps, when, as Mathilde said, because of the gating questions, if you don't go to the section that asks questions on IBM, you don't even understand how you could improve. Also, as an improvement tool,
Okay.
how you could improve and how you can improve your score on this. And as far as I'm aware Ostrocell should recertify this year, probably, or at the end of this year. So I think seeing everything that you do, but I think that the bioethanol, especially production, only started in 2022. But I think there are a lot of ways for you to leverage that in your forthcoming certification. So I'd like to know how you approach this as well. How you approach this in your future or forthcoming recertification process.
Yeah, thanks for having the opportunity here also to provide an answer. I mean, I have not known B Corp until, let's say, 3-4 months ago. I only joined Austrocell half a year ago or so. And we have started basically now with January to prepare for our recertification, which I, let's say, coordinate here in-house. And first of all, Elisabeth, it was extremely impressive to see your research, because you showed me what we did. We didn't probably think about things that way, but I think there's a lot that people can learn from your research. Specifically, I think the point of you have to go beyond what is normal. Yeah, and that means you have to innovate. You have to develop new stuff. You have to do things in a different way. And actually, here in Austrocell, I'm also responsible for R&D now. So it fits very well together. You will not be able to, let's say, create impact, I think, unless you do things in a different way than they have been done in the past. So there's a lot of advice there. And also for me, it was very interesting to go through the questions and assign them now to colleagues and discuss with colleagues. Unfortunately, due to a lot of personal changes, we did not utilize the last 3 years very well. Certain things have happened, but there's a lot of value in going through the questions and understanding and seeing how can you apply the one or the other element to your own business model. And I'm pretty sure the next 3 years will see us take off like a rocket. Yeah. So there's really a lot that we can do also to, let's say, find multipliers for our work. And there's a lot that can be learned from working on the questionnaire and utilizing it to further, let's say, redesign your business model.
Thank you very much. I had one last question. I don't know if anyone else has questions to ask, in which case you're...
Not in the chat, but if you guys have questions, you only have let's say 10 minutes to write them in the chat so that we can ask our speakers to address them.
I had one question about advice that you would give to B Corps, or actually any company that wanted to embed impact further into their business model. What advice would you give them?
Focus on the problem.
Yeah.
Don't start in the lab and then do something cool and try to sell it. Try to solve a problem, start in the market, and then go back to the lab or wherever you need to develop, and then find a solution instead of emotionally attaching yourself to a product. It's better to attach yourself to the problem, I think, because then you're more open to all types of solutions. And then, of course, make sure that the solution does not indirectly create another problem.
I would also like to add here something. I mean, it's of course a learning after doing something in our case. Yeah, as you remember, we've not on purpose chosen this path, but somebody opened our eyes. But I think the key point from our point of view as a heavy industry is put purpose over profit. And if you do that right, profit will come. Because things will then work. You know, you're gonna have employees that are happy. You're gonna have customers that trust you. You will be able to operate. I mean, we are a biorefinery. That means there are lots of regulations that we have to fulfill. So we have to make sure that we are environmental compliant, that we have safe working conditions. So make sure that you get the purpose right and take care of things, and only then the profit will come.
There is a question in the chat. Thank you, Laurence, for asking. So any of you guys who want to answer it, what would you do differently if you reflect on your BIA process and your IBM approach? Do you have like do's and don'ts, maybe to share with our audience?
When you're filling it up, you realize a lot of things, but then maybe you work on 10% of them. Because I mean, you have to run a business after all, but like looking back, I would actually try to have those more present in our day-to-days, and make them influence more our ways of working.
Okay, Alfred, do you have an answer to that question?
Well, I guess it's
just join the company. So.
But still, I would say it's going in this. I do have experience with, let's say, other sustainability ratings. So I would say use the BIA as your starting point for the next period, or the feedback. Whatever has been what happened in the past, we cannot change, but we can take the input and the advice and utilize it in the next period, and continue to get better.
Well, thank you very much. That's a good conclusion, I think. We're just gonna share with you if we switch to the conclusion. The key conclusion of all this and all the work that we've done to date is that if you want to increase your number of points, if you want to increase your performance, if you want to shift your business model to impact, whether you're a B Corp or not, the challenge is to find the right doors that you can open. And with this idea that you can only knock on the doors that you can see. So it's a matter of opening our eyes on the doors that are here available and try to open them. It's a good summary of what adjacent possibilities are about in business context and how to unlock their potential, both in terms of impact and business performance, obviously. I mentioned the context of this IBM series research program we're conducting with B-Lab. We obviously have your emails, but please stay tuned for further publications. We're working on a new booklet of best practice on the IBM local economic development that we've mentioned. We have a second webinar in French for those who want to practice their French on the 30th of March to end this Big Up month. We're working on a searchable database of best practice on IBMs. So we'll tell you more about that, I hope, in a few weeks. We're working on workshop methodology to work on IBMs internally with employees based on the best practice, and many more things to come. So really thank you again to the 4 corporate partners, Bonduel, Chloé, Expansions, and People Heights, who are helping us do this, because there's a lot of work to be done on the database. We obviously at B-Lab and at Utopies need time to do this, and to share all those informations with you. Don't hesitate to contact us if you're interested to work with us on the subject. IBM series at utopies.com. I think the email address will be in the chat or on the slide. Thank you very much, Leah. And again, you have the landing page with all the publications in the chat. So please don't hesitate to use it. And as Yael is saying, and that's in the chat that I'm checking while talking, which is always a challenge. But don't forget that the BIA is indeed very much an innovation platform, and an innovation platform focused on IBMs, on shifting the offer of products and services, as it is an assessment, and it's free and online, available to all, even those who are not interested in B Corp. This must be reminded, because it's so exceptional in my perspective. Thank you very much to all of you. Thank you to our speakers today. Thank you very much, Mathilde, Leah, Yael, Alejandro, and Alfred. And we hope to see you soon for the other webinar on IBMs. Thank you. Bye-bye.